Welcome to Aging Rewired, a new podcast by Senior Planet from AARP, where we explore the intersections of aging and technology through insightful conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Solomon. Today we're going to be talking about images of aging. In our last episode, Rewriting the Script on Aging, we touched on how seniors are represented in film. But in today's conversation, we're going to dive even deeper into how older adults are portrayed across all forms of media and find out what people like our guest, Barbara Shipley, are doing to actively change the narrative of aging.
For some reason, ageism is still allowed, and we don't want to see it anywhere, especially not in media, movies, and the creative industry.
Joining us is Barbara Shipley, AARP Senior Vice President of Brand Integration. Barbara, welcome to the show.
I am so happy to be here.
So I'd like to start with the question I posed at the beginning. What are some ways older adults are traditionally being portrayed in the media, and why does that matter?
I'd like to start with maybe a provocative statement, but it will likely make sense to everybody. We live in a youth-obsessed culture, and few people want to admit that, but most people agree with it. But the truth is that's not new. We have always lived in a youth-obsessed culture, but the implications of that are actually really dangerous. And what we find now that the world's population is aging, but we'll really focus on the US population here, the fastest growing segment of our population in the United States is people over 85. And we have 110 million people in this country alone that are over 50. So the implication of aging portrayals matters more now than it ever did before. And the truth is, pop culture, the creative industry, like advertising, even movies, still have a lot of ground to make up in terms of getting what we call the aging story right. That's why we run an initiative as part of being an advocacy organization called Shaping a New Image of Aging. And the truth is, a lot of media is still portraying older people using outdated cliches and sometimes even dangerous stereotypes. And at AARP, we obviously want to help the media industry understand why that is so wrong, where the changes are taking us, and why all those changes are so good.
My biggest pet peeves when it comes to this topic include how often the terms elderly and retiree seem to be used. It's as if you hit retirement age and those terms instantly apply. So what you are saying resonates with me in so many ways. How does your work at AARP actually address these challenges?
We should really resist the urge to label people based on possibly one data point. We may know one thing about a person, and that one thing that we know, or we think we know, is their age. And with that one piece of information, we wrap an entire story around them, that they're elderly, befuddled, retired, vulnerable, frail. And let's be honest, those things do happen as we age, but they don't necessarily happen to everybody, and they don't happen the same way at the same time. So let me throw another stat at you, which I just think is really interesting, which is that in the United States, half of people who are 65 are still working. Now, that could be because they want to, or frankly, it could be because they have to. Regardless, if you see somebody who is 65, to make an assumption that they are, in your words, retired, is a label that just isn't accurate. But more importantly, it immediately elicits these sort of dangerous, again, cliches or assumptions about somebody who is 65 and retired, like they can't use technology, like they live in a world of senior moments, they are befuddled, they only hang out with other older people. These assumptions are just basically wrong. And therefore, as an advocacy organization that is really here to help people feel and be portrayed in their authentic and relevant way, we need to correct that. And we are making great progress, I should say. since we launched this Shaping a New Image of Aging initiative about 5 years ago.
Barbara, how do you pitch to the big brands and the designers and the ad agencies ways that they may want to reconsider how they depict older adults in their content?
This is an audience of people over 50 who have the economic capacity to drive industries, to move product, to influence innovation. We have a study that we do on a recurring basis, and it's called the longevity economy. And what's fascinating about this is you've got, on the one hand, this miracle of a longer lifespan. And it really, truly is a miracle. And we all really should embrace it, that people are living longer. Now, that is not every segment. That is not every zip code. We certainly understand that there are some dynamics to that. But for the most part, people are living 10, 20 years longer than their parents and certainly their grandparents. The sheer contribution that this audience makes to the economy is surprising to a lot of people. You're looking at something like 53 cents of every dollar spent in this country is spent by someone over 50. You're looking at things like $8 to $9 trillion of contribution to this economy. And it's across sectors. Yes, it's on healthcare, but it is also on entertainment and travel and mobility. Car companies are really starting to pay more attention to what the over 50 car consumer wants. And they're very smart to do that because that's who's buying the new cars and trucks. So this business dimension is what really helps the brands and the agencies understand that on the one hand, yes, it is more accurate and probably more charitable to depict and portray older people in a more realistic way, but it's also good business. And the older people are more discerning than some of these brands may be thinking that they are. And they get that in many cases, they are either being ignored by these brands or, even worse, being insulted by these brands. For some reason, ageism is still allowed, and we don't want to see it anywhere, especially not in media, movies, and the creative industry.
Are there some particular tools that you offer to these organizations or the people who you are engaging with that help them in some manner to see this beyond just the figures and the information that you cited?
The tools are the most important thing. You know, we can go to every conference, we can speak at every media outlet, but until we provide actionable, tangible, tactical tools for the industry to use, we're really not going to change the game. And the good news is we have a fabulous game-changing tool that we launched several years ago, actually when we announced the new initiative. And our partner is Getty Images. And you've heard of Getty Images. I think most consumers even have some sense of who Getty Images is. And they are a top, reputable, credible brand in the world of, among other things, stock photography, stock imagery, stock video. Stock imagery is a really interesting industry because it makes available professional, strategic, on message, and a huge variety of images people would want to use in their work. And it's easy to access. It's affordable. For a lot of brands and agencies, it's very expensive to go do what we would call a custom photo shoot. That is a wildly expensive investment. When you can go onto Getty Images and you can, for a very affordable price, access, download, and use images that have been taken by some of the world's best photographers. You get options to choose dozens of different, if not more, images in a single category. And it's a way to express the message in a much more affordable and sometimes more effective way. We partnered with Getty Images because they have a real soul in this area and a commitment in a couple of different areas. We launched a signature collection. It's called the Disrupt Aging Collection. And we've been able to influence the output at so many different levels. I'll give you an example. The photographers really around the world who get briefs to capture the imagery, We needed to change the briefs. The brief is a tool that's used in this industry. It basically sets the objective. We need imagery that captures people at work. We need imagery that captures people having fun. We need imagery of people in a healthcare environment. And the way the brief is structured, the questions that the photographer has to answer needed to change because we needed to update the ask if we expected the output to actually reflect the reality. So the Getty Images collection, our signature collection, Disrupt Aging, has grown by tens of thousands of images. It has become a wildly popular place for parts of the industry, from the advertising agencies to the technology area to the brands that use them. And what I love most about how the imagery has changed overall, collectively, and then there are some specifics that I would also love, it's become more authentic. They've become more real. The people that you see in these images are like people that you know. It could be like people that you are. They are women doing yoga in their yoga outfits. They're not perfect. They're having fun. It's colorful. They're engaged. They're engaged with each other. You know, in the old days, not too long ago, older people would be in imagery, but often alone. But they're not alone. They are with friends. They're with family. They're at work. Like I said before, half of people 65 are still working. One of the biggest challenges that we have had and that we've talked to others in the industry is getting good imagery of these workplace environments. And the reality about the workplace is that people work in multi-generational offices or in a multi-generational workplace, which means there's people of all ages. And one of the most important elements of diversity, in addition to race and ethnicity and gender identity, must be age. And we are pushing hard for that. So when we show the pictures, when we share the visual stories of a really great multi-generational workplace, that helps change the behavior of the hiring manager, of the executives who want to build and then respect people of all ages in their workplace. It's about respecting the experience that people bring. So that's just one example. But this multi-generational, very authentic, people who are active, people who are embracing life, it's not airbrushed as much as it used to be because the brief requires that it be more real. And I think that's one of the things that I love most about the Signature Collection and that I love most about working with Getty Images.
Now we're going to take a quick break to tell you that Aging Rewired is a podcast produced by Senior Planet from AARP. If you're interested in exploring all that Senior Planet from AARP has to offer, you can find us online at www.seniorplanet.org. The Senior Planet website offers a variety of free virtual programs each week, from technology lectures to exercise sessions, discussion groups, and special events. Can't make it to a live class? On-demand programs and tech tip videos let you learn on your own schedule. On seniorplanet.org, you can also find original and engaging articles for older adult readers on topics like finance, health, entertainment, and relationships. Looking to meet new friends with common interests? Explore Senior Planet Community, our ad-free social platform exclusive to older adults. This safe digital space is a place for you to join interest groups, start conversations, and make connections. Still have questions about Senior Planet? Call our free hotline at 888-713-3495, Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern. Find out about upcoming programs and receive free tech help from our team of patient, helpful agents. Learn how to use Zoom, set up an email account, and more. That hotline number is 888-713-3495. Now let's get back to the episode. What are some other projects you've worked on for this initiative?
So we don't want to stop with the Signature Collection, although we continue to curate and nurture it. We continue to look at a lot of data. So that's one of the other things that AARP, and I think the AARP brand, it brings its credibility, its social mission status to the table. People really respect a lot of our research and our data as well. They should. And so we like to keep the research conversations fresh. We are talking to women about how they perceive the beauty industry, right? Beauty industry is a huge player in this area of portraying older people, mostly older women. One of the things that we always say is that AARP, we are not fighting aging. We are fighting ageism. And in fact, nobody should be fighting aging. Some of the more progressive media outlets have actually banned the use of the term anti-aging. If you're not aging, you're not listening to this podcast because you're not here. We also are able to provide the agencies, the brands, members of the media community with what we call qualitative research, which is more of the kind of opinions that people in certain segments have about what they would like to see, the kind of products they would like to have access to. I'll bet some of your listeners have heard of a really big annual show that happens in Las Vegas called the Consumer Electronics Show. CES. And what might surprise them, though, is that AARP is one of the biggest exhibitors at the Consumer Electronics Show. Well, that can surprise people, and I love that. I love surprising people with that. But in about a second and a half, it becomes very clear to people why. If aging is fueling economies around the world, and older people are spending 53 cents of every dollar, then the people creating the new technology, whether it's in healthcare or entertainment or mobility or travel, they want to know what older people want. And that has turned a really big corner for us. As a matter of fact, we've launched something recently called Age Tech, which is basically a point of view that helps drive all these different industries to think a little bit differently about the way they build their products, the way they develop their technology to help with all people who are aging. I mean, millennials are going to start turning 50 in a couple of years. So this becomes an even bigger issue for just about everybody wanting to put a phone or a bottle of shampoo or an airplane ticket in someone's hands. So the research is important. We provide interesting information on the language. You brought up earlier that people are immediately called retirees or elderly. We've done a lot of work on the language that people in this audience connect with. You know, senior citizens, I would say that everybody respects senior citizens, and AARP is proud of the work we do to support senior citizens, but people don't want to individually be identified that way. They also really don't want to be individually identified as a member of a generation. We might talk about boomers collectively, but people don't want to be marketed to and say, well, Sheila, as a boomer, you probably want X. Well, that is a leap. You're probably wrong. And people don't want to have those assumptions put on them. So there are a lot of different tools that we use. And I would add one other area that we spend a lot of time in, and over the last 20 years have really moved the market, is in film. So we have an initiative that has just surpassed the 20-year mark called Movies for Grown-Ups. And AARP has made a huge welcome shift in the industry about who's in movies, who's making movies, who's writing movies, and helping everybody understand who flocks to the movies. And so people over 50 make great movies, and people over 50 love great movies. And AARP has done a lot to change the industry and to help create more opportunity for actors, writers, in front of the camera, behind the camera, to continue to ply their craft.
When did AARP see a bump suggesting that indeed we're finally getting the message across? Do you remember that?
Part of the answer to that is that there isn't one bump, but you start to see and feel the turn where a few years ago, more and more older actors, directors were being awarded Oscars. That was a trend that did take some time. You also started to see more films being made, appealing to older audiences, featuring older actors and stories. Streaming had a huge impact on this because now people could really get access to so much more great content, and they were picking and choosing. So in a way, their own clicks and follows were helping to drive the industry. I would also say in the media, with the advertising industry, another group that we've talked about here already, this isn't a good thing, but it is the truth. The advertising agency is the self-professed most ageist industry in the world. But they are starting to shift how they build teams, how they value experience. And I think one of the forces that has helped turn the corner is that a lot of the people who are what we call in our business the creative directors, the Don Drapers, if anybody's ever watched Mad Men, the people who are the ones guiding much of the strategy around advertising, well, guess what? They themselves are starting to turn 50. And they want to stay relevant. They want to keep working. They know they have more to offer. And that is actually starting to shift perceptions, the behaviors, and frankly, the output.
And where are you going to connect to people in the entertainment industry to get your message out?
We have made great progress there, but we are on the road a lot. I am speaking on podcasts. I speak on media. I speak at conferences. I have several colleagues who also do. And we are really seeing that when we share the business reality, when we share the point of view from the audience, when we put a mirror up and show them that people in their 50s are the ones buying the cars and trucks, so you should probably advertise to them, it starts to make a change and it starts to create a more of an open mind. We also really like to honor those brands that are getting it right. We like to lead from the top. We are even exploring the possibility in the next year or two of doing almost like our own recognition for brands that are being innovative and opening up and getting the story right. We like to celebrate those teams that are built using multi-generational influences and celebrate the great work that comes out of them. And we will never stop our Movies for Grown-Ups program where we give our own awards. Our Movies for Grown-Ups awards, annually given, are as coveted as an Oscar to those members of the community that receive them because they know it's done with a discerning eye and that it matters. It matters to them that it is bestowed by an organization that respects and honors their lifetime of work and the great things they're doing now at this age. You know, some people may not know that AARP is sponsoring this current tour of the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones are creating new music. That's one of the reasons why we really wanted to do it. We love the nostalgia and the connection that people have. But at their age, Mick Jagger is 80, he hasn't stopped making new music. We love that message. And we are honored to be sponsoring their tour. And you know what? They love that we're sponsoring their tour, frankly, more than we thought they would. The audiences are loving it. We're seeing 18-year-old kids bringing their boomer dads to the concert. These are just such rich stories that help everybody realize that aging and aging your way and aging with confidence is the way it should be.
Are there any ways that you think our listeners could be of more help to you and AARP in addressing what we're talking about right now?
So absolutely engage with AARP. Consume the content that we're sharing because it's made for your listeners. We have a unique perspective on all of those things that happen in this life phase. You know, people could spend half their life over 50. You're talking about a lot of living in this time period. And we want to help your money and your health and your happiness live as long as you do. So engage with the content. Share your thoughts, come to our Movies for Grown-Ups events, engage in your community, be a volunteer. There are a lot of ways to be part of it in your own little world or in a big, massive social platform.
Barbara, one last thing.
Okay.
This podcast is all about changing the narratives and perceptions around aging. So if you ever launch a Podcast for Grown-Ups award, I hope you'll consider us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I promise you that message has been delivered.
Thank you for listening to Aging Rewired, a new podcast by Senior Planet from AARP. We end every episode by sharing what aging with attitude means to our listeners. Here's what Ehrman had to say. Aging with attitude is about embracing the fourth quarter of our lives with verve and vigor. It means staying active, curious, and engaged. See this quarter as a gift, a second chance to become the person you've always wanted to be. If you want to share what aging with attitude means to you, head over to seniorplanet.org/podcast, where you can send us an audio note. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Aging Rewired. Until next time, I'm Sheila Solomon. Let's keep aging with attitude. Thanks for tuning in to Aging Rewired. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified whenever a new episode is released. You can also help us spread the word about the show by telling others in your community or sharing your thoughts about this episode on social media. That's one of the best ways to bring more voices into the conversation. If you'd like to learn more about Senior Planet's free technology classes, resources, and online community, visit www.seniorplanet.org or call our toll-free hotline at 888-713-3495. Until next time, I'm Sheila Solomon, and this is Aging Rewired.